got on here. I'm very curious to know if anybody that's listening on your end of the computer actually finished the book and got all the way through it, and did you understand it?
Yeah, so one Sapphire Manga said, "Hello everyone, I cannot finish the book. It was hard. I felt like I was back in school."
I think we all agree about that. Seriously. And Deb, you said you've been to Europe. You've seen these little things over there. Tell us about that.
I've seen the fairies. When we were by the castles and out in the country part of it, we did see. Well, I did. My husband doesn't, but I could definitely tell that there were fairies around. When we were over by, it was the town near Loch Ness. We were out walking because he'll do 10 miles a day and smile, but we were out walking one night and we went by a little wooded area and I'm like, okay, let's go to the other side of the street because I don't know what was there, but it felt funny. It wasn't like a good, oh, this is like a fun thing. This was like, yeah, no, let's go over there. And he just laughed and said, okay, so, I mean, definitely I pick up the vibes when they're around and everything. But nothing like what he was talking about. And of all the different things I've done in places I've been, I've never seen anything that would imply that they would change species like that. Japan was another place that had interesting vibes because I love to travel and we've been in a lot of places. But yeah, like I said, the fairies mostly was what I saw over in Ireland and Scotland.
And I think those are probably the biggest number of fairies and that type of thing are probably sprites and fairies and more of the little folk than what he's talking about. Now I wonder, and I looked, I couldn't find it. Maybe one of you did. Did you find anything in his book about the Loch Ness monster?
He mentioned something about the Loch Ness monster for like 2 sentences.
Oh, I missed it.
And it's like
almost like he touched on it
just so that it's there,
but not enough to confirm that's what he was touching on.
Right.
See, that's why I think that's interesting, because he seems to be so knowledgeable about all the other things, but that is still going on in Scotland. And you would think that he would zero in on that and try to give some kind of a definition of more of what that is. Because like I said, I personally think that that Loch Ness monster could be alien. I really do.
And that could be why he didn't touch on it, because he didn't talk about aliens at all.
That's right. And the pebbles, well, they're not pebbles. They're there's something really unique. I'll have to show it to you one of these days. But some of these little things that I've got that I can give to people, well, I don't have very many left of. But if you put those in your yard, you'll never be, aliens will never mess with you. So, you wonder. I just don't think he had knowledge about that at all.
No.
And did anybody else find anything interesting about it?
It was just a difficult read.
It was.
Really,
it was.
like a textbook.
I think that what kind of intrigued me the most was that there seemed to be so many, and that they were all kind of similar yet different. And that surprised me.
But I wonder how much of that is because of the area of the country rather than true differences.
Right.
It's like pop and soda.
Right.
Go back 30, 40 years ago,
Good
pop
point.
was up here, soda was down south. It's the same stuff.
Right. Okay.
So I have to wonder if a lot of that, because
it was messed in the translation. What he's referring to, we're not seeing. That's a good point. That's a good point. Like I said, I just thought that I just thought he went totally overboard with trying to give us the original. It's like he was trying to come up with an original, this is how they were created thing. And it didn't work. It just didn't work. And you know what? Melissa and I picked this book because one of the readers recommended it and said that it was one of the best books they ever read. And it's like, okay, then.
So how long did they live in Ireland or England?
Right. And maybe they did. And I think people that live there are obviously more open to this because, I know people here are aware of it, but not like they are in the old country because that's where everybody, did this. Is Becky on stream, Violet? Is she one of the people that is in stream?
I don't see her in the comments.
Okay, she just got back from Wales.
Oh, nice.
And I just wonder if maybe, she didn't have or the ability to see something like that. And for those of you that don't know, Rebecca is the one that does all the music for all the spots that I do. She does all that. But her and her husband were just there. So I was curious to see, like I said, if she saw something or not. I have to laugh because people around here, if they have the little folk, they use the solution to get rid of them, like you can all get rid of them. I don't think if those horses are real, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think so. Not you're just going to throw it in their eye. It's not going to work, I don't think.
Kathy Smith Miller on Facebook says, hello, I'm off to Scotland next month. Maybe I should have a read or not, coming in late to the group.
Did you read the book? How did you like the book?
Yeah, because I was going to say, Kathy, the general consensus, I think, would be
It was hard to read.
it was hard to read,
Yeah.
not very accurate information.
Old information.
Old information.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
so-
not accurate because it probably was accurate
At one point,
200
maybe.
years ago.
Yeah.
Debbie, the other thing too is that when you go on vacation to a country, any foreign country, they don't take you in the swamps
No, they don't.
where these things apparently are happening. And so, well, they do in Florida, but you just have to worry about crocodiles down there. So it's okay. Any other questions off Violet from the other group?
Not yet. Although Sapphire Mangas did say mermaids are not good looking, very scary. Parentheses.
Well, like I said, they weren't like from Splash, that's for sure. I don't think they look like that.
Yeah, and one Facebook user just said old information.
Mhm.
I think we all agree on that and this is a brand new book. I just amazed that. I got to tell you, I bet this man is even very boring when you meet him.
Was his writing also hard to read? Like,
Yeah.
It
It-
had so many statistics on everything, but they weren't even really accurate. Just like a water course, for example. Blah 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 blah, and you couldn't even read it. It was just
Yeah. And he'd throw the Gaelic in there
Yeah.
periodically. And it's like, okay,
no
you couldn't have said
translation.
water horse, parentheses,
Parentheses, the
Gaelic, parentheses, and then go into the information. No, it's just like random. It literally, like he made his notes and put the notes and sent it to the publisher and says, here you go.
Yeah, he just, and like you said, with all the people that he used as references, isn't that called when you steal somebody else's work?
He had like the
Oh,
numbers
yeah,
and
copyright,
he
yeah.
had it all detailed of who said what and what book it was from and everything. He was very clear about that. I almost wonder if he's not a professor over there.
In the back in the bibliography, I mean, he's using, many of his books were written in the 1800s
Yeah.
in his
Right.
bibliography. So that's
Um,
how far
Kathy,
back.
Kathy, I'll show it on the screen. Is there a better one that everyone likes? Kind of talking about the same topic.
Not that I know of. I mean, apparently there's a lot of books out there on it, but I would suggest that if you're going to try to find more information on this, to find an American author, not one from Europe, because maybe they have these little, little creepy things in their house first, but they've transitioned a lot. Like I says, I don't think that we have 3/4 of what he's saying is over there. I really don't. I mean, I've seen sprites, I've seen fairies, I've seen a troll, and I've even seen a leprechaun, and not just on the box of cereal. But they definitely, like I says, I think they do. But again, they're alive and they pop in and out of dimensions. How could they take over somebody's body? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Not at all.
Mary Ann, have you been to England before?
I have not.
Okay.
No, I've been out of the country, but I have not been to England.
Okay.
I've never even been to Italy. Yeah, I'm afraid if I go to Italy that the relatives won't let me leave. Yeah, but no.
But you bring up an interesting point with the different dimensions, and maybe that's something that they experienced over there. Is this possibly?
Yeah, but he never mentioned dimensions, not once.
No.
Which I think is so much easier to explain these than the way he's doing it, because they're alive, they're not dead. And if they're alive and they're in the same plane we are, we'd see them all the time. You'd go, oh, yeah, there goes the troll that lives down the basement. You would say something like that, but I don't think so. I still think they pop in and out of other dimensions. And people have to be aware right now, because with the rain and the cooler weather coming for fall, beware of those toadstools and mushrooms, the circle mushrooms and the toadstools that you see in your grass. They'll even come up. And if you talk to somebody and they go, oh yeah, if you have mulch in your yard, it's it comes up from the mulch and it makes that circle and everything. But boy, you get into one of those circles of fairies, they can be pretty nasty if you try to get into that. And Melissa did it. Melissa's a person she knows. She was at his house when he took his lawnmower and just mowed down all the mushrooms. Never thought about it. And oh my gosh, he had a terrible night after he did that. I mean, he had damage to his pickup truck. I mean, it was terrible. These little creatures are mean. And if you don't bother them, they're not going to bother you. And you can ask them for help too, which he never talks about in this. Okay, if you're trying to sell a house, there's a couple things that you can do. First of all, if you've got them in the house and they don't want you to sell, you'll never sell your house. They will make that house absolutely miserable to anybody coming and looking at it. But that's when you sue them. You make a little saucer with some milk and cinnamon, and you stick it outside in the flower bed by the front door. And about shoulder level, when you walk in through a door, a patio door, a front door, side door, whatever, take some rose oil on a cotton ball, and just about shoulder level, put a dot of it on each side. So when somebody walks through the door, they get a whiff of the rose smell. It's amazing how much little folk will help somebody buy a house because of roses. It's just little goofy stuff like that. You don't want them seriously in the house when the house is being shown, but if they want to help you, though, that's okay though too. So
what type of mushroom areas are you talking about to not disturb?
If any mushrooms or toadstools you find that are in a circle,
okay,
That's the ones you can get rid of them, but don't go inside the circle. Destroy them from the outside, from around the outside of it. When you go inside it, that's where you get the full brunt of their negativity. If you do it from the outside, now they're going to be angry with you for making, for tearing down their mushrooms, but at least you don't want them back in your backyard having a party in their mushroom circle. Believe me.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, Sapphire Manga said, I read Living the Fairy Life by Kak Young, PhD. She lives here in the US. It was a fun read. So for anybody looking for a better read, maybe this is an option for you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much for offering something else up, because like I said, I all the information that I got about fairies were from people that had them, like the solution to get them out of your house. That was given to me by somebody that was very, very personal, close with these things. But she's, and believe it, she was from Ireland, but well, her relatives were from Ireland. She was here. She was born here. So, but I'd rather like my definition of them better than his. Let's put it that way. Does anybody have any questions about the little fairies? Have any of you ever think that you've seen one or heard one or anything like that?
How common are they? I mean, how often?
Well, the good thing is this that I found out, and if you do something long enough, stuff starts coming clearer. I have never found little folk in a house that has earthbound ghosts. Never. Now, I don't know if it would have to be the ghost would not be, the little folk must be afraid of the ghost. Otherwise, why wouldn't they be sharing the house with them? But unfortunately, once the house is cleared, that's sometimes where the little folk come in. But there's a solution for it that is a permanent solution, but you have to do it. I can't do it for you. It's your house. You have to do it. And once you go through this 6-month thing that you have to do, they'll never come back in your house again, ever. But
Can you
for
see them on Zoom or detect them on a phone call?
I can, by a high-pitched noise. If I talk to you on the phone, there is, I hear it's a different noise that I can hear if it's alien, but little folk, it's a definite noise I can hear. I can tell if there's something in the house or not. Yeah. And these people that started with all of these, COVID, people did all these fairy things in their yards. They put all these little fairy gardens out and made these little houses for the fairies. And oh, yay, we got little fairies. And I'm sure the kids had a great time doing it until fall came and you moved the stupid house into the basement. Who do you think you brought with you in the house? The little people that were living outside in the fairy house. And they're not happy now about being in the house. If you had left the house outside, they would have done whatever they do in the winter, wherever they stay in their own dimension or whatever they do. But when you bring them in the house, and they can be so mean to animals. Leprechauns are so mean to animals. It's terrible. It really is bad. So, and trolls are the ones that like to I had a 4-year-old girl draw me a picture of what she saw in her bedroom, and there was no doubt she saw a troll in her bedroom. It almost looked, it was hairy, not as bad as Cousin It from the Addams Family, but close, pretty close, a lot of hair. And it was funny because when she drew, well, she was only 4 or 5, so she's not an artist, obviously. But I said, wow, his hair is long. She said, yeah. She says, it almost looked like the seaweed that comes out of Grandpa's pond. And I thought that was interesting that she said that. And now after reading parts of this book, I'm wondering if there is something that came out of a pond or a river.
Mhm.
I don't know. But the solution worked on them. So, and it was fine. But that little girl she just graduated from college. And she remembers it. That's something she said she'll never forget. She said, because she said its mouth moved, but she couldn't hear anything. The mouth was just moving, but she could not hear anything that was being said. But if she moved to the right, he moved to the right in front of her. If she moved to the left, he moved to the left. And she said that he hid in her closet. And I wonder how many kids are afraid of their closets. Maybe.
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
if the house is protected with your seeds and you're not into the fairy houses and you don't have the mullet around to attract some of the little folk, how can you ensure that you will not get any of these?
I don't think there's any way.
Okay.
I know that they're plentiful on farms, especially animal farms, horse farms, cow farms, dairy farms, that kind of stuff. They're in the barns there, but they belong there. They're not the mean ones. They're okay. It's just like, your wood sprites and your flower sprites. They help you with your garden. They're good. They don't hurt you. But bring a bald Christmas tree into the house and have the hole dug to plant it in January out, and you should see what happens, because it happened to us. I never had these in my house till I brought a pine tree in the house to decorate for Christmas. And we brought it in, and I wanted it, you bring it in, you want it to get warmed up a little bit, you just bring it in and set it up. So the next morning I started putting the lights on it. And I used cool lights, of course. It's a live tree. I wasn't going to use something, that was, well, I don't even think they make hot ones anymore. The next morning, all the lights were off the tree. And my kids didn't do that. They were like 5 and maybe 3 at the time. So my girls did not do that. But I did not put the lights back on. Ted fixed like a little spotlight on it instead. And I just put all the other decorations on it, and it was fine. Took it outside. Oh, no, it wasn't fine. Then 2 days after that, I walked in the living room, and I'm thinking, what is that on the wall? I don't know how many spider eggs hatched out of that tree. But the wall was covered in spiders. It's like, never again. Never. So, but yeah, like I said, I think if they stay in their own environment and they're not bothered, I think you can coexist with them. But I think when you start messing with their stuff, I think they get angry.
Yeah, kind of going along the same thing. Somebody commented, my daughter was told that she has a fairy next to her. Are there good fairies? Do they stay forever or go away?
The ones that like to bother kids are going to go away the older your child gets. They're going to go find some younger kids again. But maybe who was next to her, was more, was a good, they're not all bad. Some of them are good. Like I said, they can help you sell a house if you want them to. So yeah, I think some of them are good, but I don't think they stay forever. I think they're too, it's like they're hyper. They have to jump around to everybody. And I don't think they stay for a long period of time.
Somebody also was asking, what's the difference between fae, trolls, and pudgwickie?
Well, I have no idea what the last one is. And fae is another word that people say for, instead of saying a fairy, they call it a fae instead. It's just like a short name for the word fairy. And trolls are trolls. The books, the fairy tale books that you read, the trolls are the ones that always live under the bridge. And you have to pay them a piece of fruit or a biscuit or a cookie or something sweet, or they won't let you cross the bridge. They will stop you. But like I said, this one that was in this little girl's bedroom, that was definitely a troll. There's no doubt in my mind that it wasn't. Banshees are taller and they don't like to be around humans. They cause problems for humans. Same thing with worries. They cause problems for humans too. But like I said, trolls got this thing about the bridge. I don't know.
Also, somebody asked, can you describe the ones you saw in a house that you visited? I assume they're talking about the fairies.
Yeah, it was the very first time that I ever saw one. For those of you that I've done your houses, I come in, we sit down at the table, I talk to you. I don't really look at what you have in your house, how you're decorated. I'm focused on what I'm supposed to be doing. So this gal's house that I was in, she had 2 ghosts in the house that were really giving her a problem. And she wanted to show me something. And it was an older house and it was in Lakewood. What a surprise. And she had to go upstairs, and the door to get into her dining room was a door that swung both ways. You could push it like in a restaurant or push it the other way. And so now I'm sitting in this room. She said it was going to take her a few minutes. And so now I'm looking around because there's nobody to talk to. And she had built in, it was an old house. She had those built-in china cabinets that on the sides with the glass fronts. One of my houses had them. I really like those. And I'm sort of looking at what's inside there, not off the chair. I'm just sitting and looking, and she collect pottery. And I was looking at thinking, oh, I know what that is. And something caught my eye, like a flash. And I looked up, and she had a chandelier over the dining room table that had maybe 8 arms that like came up with the light bulb on the top. And there were dangling, how you ever clean that, I wouldn't have any idea. But those dangling things hanging off of it, it was pretty ornate. And so I glance up at it, and I'm thinking to myself, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'd have to clean that. That's what I was thinking. And I looked, and I put my head down. I thought, oh no, that's not what I just saw. And I did. I saw something about an inch. And I looked up again, and there it was, sitting right in the crux of one of the little, it was just sitting there with its little wings just going. And she didn't have a crown on. She just had a little bit of hair. And I'm thinking, what is that? What is that? And I'm thinking, that's not a bug. I don't know what it is. So now I start looking. There's about 3 more up there. And I just kept my head down. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I see ghosts. That's all I have to do is now I see fairies. Come on, people are really going to lock me up. So the gal comes back in the room, and she's talking to me, but my mind is up on the chandelier. And I as I'm talking to her, I know I was sort of looking up a little bit. And she said, oh, you see my little friends up there, don't you? I went, oh my God, I'm not crazy. And that's what people say when I tell them they actually have a ghost. Good, I'm not crazy. I do have a ghost. She goes, yeah, she says, they come and she says, I'm a great gardener. And she says, they'll come with me back and forth. She had a greenhouse somewhere, I don't know where. And so she was, but that was the actual first time that I ever saw one. They exist. They truly do exist.
Yeah, somebody also asked, kind of going along with your description, are fairies all tiny, or are there human-sized ones?
Oh no, there's big ones too. Like I said, worries, they're very tall. Trolls can be pretty tall too, but trolls, they're sort of square. Their shoulders are broad and they're just straight down. And it's like they don't almost even have a neck. It's like sort of all together. But they can be big. But like I said, they can be small though too. Leprechauns aren't tiny like you may think. Leprechauns are about 3 feet tall. They're pretty tall. And let me think, what else? Banshees, those are tall also. Sprites are usually small, tiny. They're not big. So they're varied in size. You know, there's many different sizes as there are different size humans. It's same thing.
It's really interesting. The same woman that was talking about how her daughter, somebody told her that she had a fairy next to her, asks, what makes a fairy choose someone?
You know what? Your personality, your energy, like they don't use our energy like an earthbound spirit does, but maybe you're a fun person. You know, who knows what, why was your spouse or your significant other attracted to you? It's the same thing. Who knows what attracts to somebody? Earthbound spirits are going to be attracted to usually type A personalities because of the energy that they need. But the little folk don't need the energy. So it's whatever they want to do.
Yeah. So any questions in here? Anything about the book?
Well, I had one question now that we're talking about the trolls and the fairies and, how you saw them at that house and the woman knew that they were around. Obviously they can make people see them, but do you think there are some that definitely try to avoid being seen by people to just fly under the radar?
Yeah, I'm sure they peek around corners and they hide. I'm sure that little girl that saw the one in her bedroom, an adult was never going to see that. I would say that one would only show itself to a child. And so, yeah, I'm sure, like I say, with the earthbound ghosts, they don't sit around at night and play pinochle if there's more than one in the house. And I think the little folk are the same way. I don't think most of them are that bold unless they think you wronged them or you took something of theirs, which is interesting though, because I think it's the leprechauns. Yeah, I think it's the leprechauns. They like to steal little things. They'll take a ring, they'll take a coin, and it's the leprechauns that will dump out food out of cupboards. They've opened up cupboards and opened up boxes of cereal, or took the cap off of a honey where honey spilled all over everything. But that they can do that kind of stuff. But they don't, like I said, the only time that I know of any that has actually hurt a human was with those circles, those mushroom circles. They get really upset if you go in their circles.
Yeah, and actually, I kind of have a question about. So, do the leprechauns, do they originate from like Ireland, Scotland, over there, or are they here too?
No, I think that's probably where they originated from. I'm going to guess that a lot of these little creatures came over, maybe on the Mayflower years ago. Who knows where they came from? But like I said, with this guy, what he's talking about, at least half or 3/4 of what he's talking about in that book, they're not here. They're only over there. So, and again, because he's talking, like you guys said, from the 15th, 16th centuries, who knows if they even exist anymore? There's no dinosaurs anymore, so maybe they don't exist either. Who knows? Any other questions off the computer, Violet?
Just some people talking about different experiences they had. One lady commented, years ago, I thought I might possibly have seen a fairy outside near my bedroom window, but when I described it to a friend, was told it was probably a Luna moth. Could have been. It was so beautiful.
And that's some of the little fairies. The sprites do look very similar to a moth or a dragonfly. So they're not the same. You can actually see little arms and little legs, but it's when people just see a glimpse of it, that's exactly what they think they've seen, a moth or a dragonfly, a butterfly, something like to that effect. Yes, you're right.
That's very interesting.
This is so much better if I'm there. This is hard doing it this way.
I know. Yeah, I don't think there's anything really online. Anything about the book, you guys?
Well, while we're waiting, I know that this is next month's How to Survive a Mercury Retrograde. And I started this one. You can read this book. It's good.
Okay.
This is a good one to read. And I think the way Melissa and I go at each other about Mercury retrograde, because she doesn't believe it at all. So this one is good. Like I said, I'm disappointed in this one, though. I really am. I just wish it was easier to do. Hey, have you guys heard and have you guys listened to the podcast?
Mhm.
What did you think of it?
Like it.
I loved it.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Okay, good.
Even those 20-minute clips, even once a week, just
Yeah, I don't know how much she knocks it down to. So, but yeah, and she lets it come out every Wednesday, like 4:00 in the morning, the new one. So, and we're a little out, so I don't know which one is on. My weeks are so messed up. Tomorrow's Wednesday, so I don't know which one is on tomorrow. But yeah, I was just curious if anybody's listened to it. It's like, should we keep doing it if nobody's listening to it, or should we stop? So but as long as you guys are listening, that's fine. Then I know I'll keep on doing it.
Yeah.
I think the one from last week, I mean, it was kind of sad because it was about addictions, but I think it applies to so many people who have loved one in their lives that are going through similar. They've gone in rehab, they're coming out of rehab, and so I think it was really applicable to a lot of people.
And that's it. They're not all, they're not all going to be light and airy. I mean, this is some of this stuff is really serious. So that's why, that's why I was glad. There was a farm in Pennsylvania. It was a dairy farm, and the cows stopped giving milk for some reason there. And so when I talked to the man, I knew that there was an earthbound spirit, but I did not know at that time that when I used to think that there was something wrong with the phone connection. Because it was all landlines then, nothing, none of these portable things. And so I just figured it was a bad connection whenever I would hear that high-pitched noise. I just didn't think anything about it. But that's the first time that I ever saw a banshee type. There was a banshee in his barn in Pennsylvania. And this guy also had hogs, and he slaughtered the hogs himself. And that banshee caused a lot of problems, which I don't blame the banshee in that room because that room was disgusting. But that is where I did see a banshee, and that's the only one I ever saw. So that which is okay with me, because they are almost. They're not flesh colored. They're almost a pond scum green color. Not just they're just yucky. And they look like the clothes that they have on look like they are all baggy but ripped. And if you look at them when they're standing and their arms are out like this, you can see how the cloth is just, it just seems like their clothes are just on the bone. They're not on a whole arm. So banshees are really, really weird. Yeah, those I don't like at all. But like I said, I don't know of any other ones around here. Even when I've done like reservations, I've never seen any, but maybe Native American Indians have their own set of culture and things that they are aware of. But I've never seen little folk on any Indian reservation, and I've never heard the high pitched noise there either. So maybe they pick and choose who they want. I don't know. I will tell you this, anybody that has birds, parakeets, budgies, parrots, and there's a lot of people that like those birds. If you've got some kind of birds like that, keep your bird seed in a very sealed container because they love bird seed. And I'll almost guarantee you, if you've got a big bird in the house, you've had little folk in your house because they're just gouging on the seed. So, and some people just keep it in the bag because the birds are in a cage, they're not going to get it. Do you remember the old potato chip cans, the metal ones that the potato chips used to come in? That's great because you can't get those lids off. So put it in there, but just so they can open them.
Yeah, so before we did get some questions in.
Okay.
Before that, I do want to say that a lot of people are saying yes on the podcast. So they are
Good.
podcast. Very interesting stuff. I know that you had a question about the banshee.
Yeah, I was just curious if you were able to make it leave when you came to get rid of the ghosts at that farm.
No, I did not know how to make it leave because I didn't know it wasn't dead. It's not going to listen to me.
Well,
and I don't think it was there very long. And it was actually the earthbound spirit that was bothering the milking cows. It was not the banshee. The banshee was more about the room that the hogs were butchered in. That was the room that bothered him the most, or I don't know what they are, the thing the most. I don't know if they're male or female. I know there are some that are definitely, male or female, but I don't know what this was because it had long, I don't know what it was. If it was a man or a woman, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so Kathy had a question. She said, maybe you said this, but do all of the little folk exist in a different dimension and we occasionally can see them?
Exactly, Kathy. They are alive, but in a parallel dimension, and they can pop in and out whenever they feel like it, wherever they feel like it. So, yeah, that's exactly how they work, and that's why I can't get rid of them because they're not dead. I don't think I've ever seen a dead little person, little folk. If I have, I didn't recognize it, so I suppose they die at some point, but maybe they just die in their own dimension. I don't know.
Yeah. John also said, I always thought sprites were gatekeepers. The ones I have come across scream really loud when you get close.
Oh, they could make noise, high-pitched screams. That's exactly right. Has anybody ever heard a donkey screaming from a barn? That big, some of them that are real deep but high-pitched. That's what some of them sound like. And that's, I think, to scare people away. I really believe that. Now, I've never heard that about the gatekeepers, though, but sure, why not?
Yeah. Also, somebody had a great question. I thought this was interesting. Will music attract fairies?
I think they like music because they like to sing and dance and jump around. So unless they're just listening to it in their own head, I think they do like music. I don't know if it attracts them or not. Let me think about that for a second. I've done music studios in New York and California and Chicago. I've never seen little folk in there where I've heard the high pitched noise. So I don't know. I don't think so. I've never seen them on a TV when the show was being recorded too. Yeah, I've never seen them on a movie set either. I don't know. But you know what? That's so made up. You think nature. I think there are more to nature things than, like, I've never seen them in a mall or heard them in a mall. So I think, I think they're more earthy things. I don't think they're more modern things.
Gotcha. A YouTube viewer said, I thought all banshees were female, but I guess not. How would they make new banshees?
La 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 la. I don't know. I don't need to know.
I thought that was an interesting question.
Right. I don't know.
I
know worries are usually female. From what I understand, worries, because they're the ones that are always attracted to new babies and that type of thing. So I know they are more female than male.
Yeah. Sapphire Manga said, Kak Young said they do not like hard rock. They love classical music.
Well, thank you for letting us know, because I would have no idea.
Yeah, I find that pretty interesting too. Any questions over here?
Do little folk mess with you the same as an earthbound can? Like, can they mess with your plumbing, or can they, well, they don't take your energy, I'm assuming, but how exactly can they mess with you? Except for I know they mess with your pets and your animals.
Yeah, your pets, your animals, they like to scare the kids, younger kids. That is, like I said, that seems to be most of what the damage is that they do, or steal little objects, like that. But no, they don't wreck the roof or the plumbing, or, take the lug nuts off the wheels of your car like an earthbound spirit can. No. They don't do that.
Oh, this is an interesting question. Many witnesses believe Bigfoot moves between dimensions with ease. Do you think Bigfoot can be related to groups like fairies and others?
Well, now I wonder if Bigfoot is something like he's referring to in his book, with the big horses and the big, the big animals. But maybe he does jump in and out of other dimensions. That's why nobody can find him. I guess that's a possibility. Little fairies hanging on a chandelier is good for me. I don't think I'd want to come up against Bigfoot someplace. Of course, it's been a long time before I've been going traipsing through a woods anywhere. So,
yeah. Somebody had a question kind of related. They were asking, are you attending Cleveland Pagan Pride in Bedford this weekend? Several folks there from last year shared their fairy, spiritual journeys in discussion groups. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I am not. As a matter of fact, I've got that talk that I'm doing in Strongsville on Friday night. So no, I'm not going to that. But that's interesting to know. I didn't know that. I wonder how much. Okay, now this brings up a different question. Witches. Sometimes they will use cats to get information and that type of thing. I wonder if they actually have more knowledge about this type of thing than a regular person that is not into that would know. I don't really know.
Gotcha.
It might depend on the witch. I know I had a friend who used to go to Ireland so she could talk to the leprechauns and fairies.
Well,
She
maybe
had friends that lived over there, and she'd go over for the week, and they'd go hiking and stuff.
Well, maybe they do have a better fix on them than, I really don't know. I don't think I've ever heard of, and I know I have some friends that are pagans, but I've never heard them talk about it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more the person rather than being a witch.
Okay. Well, yeah, that probably makes sense though if you think about it. I have a lady that she had a metaphysical shop when she was alive, and every March 17th, St. Patty's Day, she would have, I don't know what kind of whiskey is Irish. But she made sure it was Jameson's. Thanks, hon. She would have a bottle of Jameson's and a little shot glass. And I walked in I walked in on St. Patty's Day, and I see the shoebox, and she's got it on an angle and is held up with a stick, and she's got a shot glass inside the box with a little bit of Jameson's in it, and she's got a string on the stick.
Mhm.
And I said, her name was Mary. I says, "What are you doing? What is all that about?" She goes, "Oh, I'm going to catch that leprechaun this year." I said, what are you going to do? She says, "Well, as soon as I see the whiskey come down in the shot glass, I'm going to pull the string out and catch him in the shoebox." I said, "Okay. And how are you going to get him out of the shoebox then?" She says, "Well, I have to catch him first before I worry about that." Years went by. She never caught it. She never caught a leprechaun.
Oh, yeah. Something kind of funny. I just saw a comment that said, "I was really excited to see a little moving light in our darkened living room the other night. I was thinking Tinkerbell, but no, lightning bug."
There you go. Yeah, I'd like to see Tinkerbell myself, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so that kind of is interesting too, as we were talking about how sometimes the fairies look like bugs in passing, and you don't know exactly what you're seeing at first.
That's right.
I
That's
thought that was
right.
interesting.
Years ago, you know how these different companies sell you plates to hang on your wall, the days of the week, or there are all kinds of things. Well, there was a Japanese artist that worked for the one company, and there was 8 plates in the set, and every plate was beautiful. It was flowers and gardens and all this kind of, but in each plate there were at least a dozen little fairies painted in each plate. And you just walk by, you looked at it, and you go, "That's a pretty plate." And it's like, no, stop and look at it. And when you stared at it, you could see them in there. And I always thought to myself, after I found out about these, and that's why I think it's interesting, because it was you, Debbie, that said something about Japan, right?
Yes. Yes, I've been there.
I wonder if they have a good connection with them or something, because the one plate is exactly like the few I saw on that chandelier. So
I would be surprised.
I just wonder if that's something that they see on a regular basis in Japan. I don't know. You know, that Setsuko that comes on every Zoom, she's from Japan. And she comes on every time we're on either the Monday or the Friday. And I'm going to have to remember to ask her. She'll be on the 22nd. I'm going to ask her if she knows anything about it. Oh, no, maybe I shouldn't. The ghost freaked her out. No, maybe I better not say anything.
No, but that's a good thing to look into. Maybe that's kind of a part of their lore.
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know.
It's at home that it's been probably 20 years since I read them. I'll pull it out and see if I can find something.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I'd like to learn about that. Kathy over on Facebook said, "Should I ask the fairy to help me with my flower gardens?"
If you are keeping your flower gardens up and not letting them go to weed, they are very happy and they are helping you. But if you're letting them go and you're letting them go to, weed, and you haven't had the time to get into them, be very careful when you finally do clear them out that you don't find pricker weeds in there, poison ivy, or little critters, little biting ants, that kind of stuff, because they get really angry if you don't keep their gardens up. So I think they're probably doing good if you're already doing it. If you have outside cats, watch your cats. Cats are fairies' biggest enemies because a cat can catch a fairy pretty easy. And they will hide from cats. Absolutely hide. Maybe that's when they call their pal the leprechaun in to get rid of the cat. I don't know, but they may have a little underground thing going on. I don't know.
And that kind of, I have a kind of a question about that. So you mentioned before how fairies kind of are in their own dimension and they have the ability to go back and forth. So do animals have the ability to kind of see past and do that?
I don't think you can, I don't think any living person or animal in this dimension can see anything in another dimension. I don't think so. Earthbound spirits can't see anybody in another dimension. So I don't think so.
Interesting. Robert Hennebury, who's actually in Japan right now, says, we have Shinto religion and we believe all of nature is respected.
Well, there you go. And that may be exactly part of it because that's not the case here. I mean, people like things, but not to the same point or to the same level that would be like it would be in Japan. So you're probably right. That's probably what it is. Well, okay. Hopefully Ted will be better and we will be able to come to the next book club meeting. Like I said, it's Mercury retrograde. And the really cool thing is that it's going to be a Mercury retrograde when we do this book. So you would get it right smack dab. It'll be perfect. So, and like I said, I find this book interesting. I think you'll get something out of it. And this is pretty cool because I'm really zeroing in on the Mercury retrograde because that's one we always talk about. I really don't know enough about the Venus and the Mars retrogrades, but he does touch on these too. So it's good to know that too. But I think we will say this one was a bummer. I would not ever recommend this book to anybody. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to think who I would even bother to give this book to read. So
A neighbor you don't like.
yeah, that would be about it.
We're all gonna
Like
end
when
up-
somebody calls me because they have a cursed item. Yeah, they'll go, well, I don't like my mother-in-law. Can I give her to her? And it's like, oh, don't do that. So, but thanks for yous that show up there. Thank you so much. And Connie, I haven't forgotten what we have to do. As soon as Ted is better, I will get hold of you for sure.
Okay, I appreciate it. No rush, but thank you.
Yeah. He's been in the hospital again since the last time, and we finally see a specialist on Thursday, so maybe we'll finally get some answers. So this will be good. But
Send in prayers.
thanks. This is going to be the first talk this Friday at Strongsville. This is the first talk that he's not going to be able to come to, so it's really weird. Let's see if I can do it without him. So I don't know. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
Good night.
And thank you for everyone tuning in on our YouTube and Facebook. Can't wait for the next one.
Thanks, Violet. Thanks for filling in for Melissa.
No problem. It's all good. See ya.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.